Hi guys, welcome back to That Cooking Show. It's Rachel, and today we're making fresh cinnamon nutmeg cake donuts, and I'm really excited. They're going to be great. So to get started, in this big bowl, you want to use a big one because we're going to be adding a lot of ingredients. I got 2.5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. To that, I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of our dry ingredients. So I've got half a cup of sugar, and I'm using like unprocessed sugar, so it has a little bit of a brown color. But you can totally just use regular white sugar. Even a little bit of brown sugar would be really good as well. Then I've got our spices, and these are what just make the cake donuts so delicious. So we've got some cinnamon, some nutmeg, and also a pinch of salt. Really important in sweet recipes, so make sure that you don't forget that. Put that right in there. And then this is probably one of the most important ingredients in this whole recipe, and that is the baking powder. Now, since these are cake donuts, there's no yeast, and that's what makes regular donuts rise. So we need an entire tablespoon of baking powder so that they're not super dense and doughy when we fry them up. So that's very important. And then just go ahead right here and mix them all together. And the way that you know when it's completely mixed is when it's all the same kind of light brown, because I know that the cinnamon has been completely dispersed throughout all of that flour. And I'm just using a big rubber spatula to make sure that I can scrape everything up off the bottom. So that looks great. And now we're going to go ahead and make a little well right in the center, kind of like when you're making biscuits. So if you can see that, there's a little well right there. Perfect. So to that, I'm going to go ahead and add first a 1/4 cup or half a stick of melted butter. And after I melted it, I went ahead and let it sit for about 10 or 15 minutes so that it was not hot, because you don't want to add anything hot in here because we're using eggs, and we don't want to accidentally scramble the eggs while we're mixing everything together. Then I've got 1 egg, a teaspoon of vanilla, and an entire cup of milk. I just use skim, so whatever your family drinks is totally fine. And add that right into the well. So now all we have to do is just fold this all together, and it's going to take a little time just to make sure that all that flour can absorb the liquid ingredients. So go ahead and just fold it, and the secret is that you want to fold from the bottom and then scoop it and fold it around. So whenever I'm making pretty much any baking dish or any pastry, I typically don't use a wooden spoon and stir it, just because it causes the glutens in the flour to come out a little bit faster, and it makes the dough kind of tough when you bake it and kind of heady. We want this to be a really light, delicious donut. So I'm just going to keep mixing this until there's no more white lumps from the flour. I'm going to go ahead and cover it with a little plastic wrap and put it in the fridge for 1 whole hour, and we'll be ready to fry it. So I'll see you back in a minute. Hey guys, welcome back. So our dough was in the fridge for about an hour 15 minutes, and that's really important because it can be a very sticky dough, so you want to make sure you give it time to rest and come together, and also make sure that that baking powder really does its job and aerates the dough. So that worked out beautifully. It was fantastic. So I went ahead, rolled out our dough using lots of flour to about a 1/4 inch thick. And you want to make sure it's nice and thin so it has room to grow and it doesn't get too huge in our pan. And then I used my adorable little donut cutter, which I got at the mall the other day. I was very excited about it. So I ended up with donut rings as well as donut holes. So right now I put a couple into 360-degree oil. I'm going to go ahead and flip them right now for you. So these have been in for about a minute, and they cook pretty quick, a minute per side, which is fantastic. And they've got that gorgeous golden color. And then I also put in a couple little donut holes for us as well. So those just need one more quick minute. So in the meantime, I'm going to take some that I just made a few minutes ago, and I'm just going to rub each side in a little bit of cinnamon sugar. And that's just going to give it a nice little sugary crunch and also some extra cinnamon flavor, which is just beautiful because we've got that cinnamon in our donuts as well. Awesome. And then another option that's good is a little powdered sugar. So I think I'll grab some of that as well out of the spice cabinet. And for this, you definitely want to use a mesh strainer instead of a spoon so that you don't get too heavy of a coating. And those just look so beautiful. They're like little beignets. So pretty. Alright, so these are ready to come out real quick. Now you can either use a slotted spoon, you can use tongs. I know some people like to use chopsticks even, which is like so cute. And then just go ahead and put them on our little paper towel. I prefer the slotted spoon. I think it's a lot easier. I started off with the tongs today, and I just found it was giving me a lot of trouble. So I went ahead and switched over to the slotted spoon. Awesome. And the paper towel is just really helpful to get that extra oil off, so we just get a nice light donut without that extra grease on there. So, a really important tip is to make sure that you let your oil come back up to temperature before you put in the next batch. Just to make sure that you don't let your donuts absorb a ton of oil when they go into a cold oil. So they gotta be at least 360, between 360 and 370 is the perfect temperature. So guys, that is it for this recipe. I hope you give it a try. I hope you love it. Comment below, let me know how it works out. And tune in next Sunday. Sorry I'm a day late, I was a little busy yesterday. But next Sunday we're gonna make another fantastic recipe. So I hope you try these donuts. I only made half today. The other half will freeze great for up to 3 or 4 months. So you can pull them out and make a couple donuts if you're having guests over. And it's a great recipe and I know you're gonna love it. So thanks for tuning in and I'll see you next week on That Cookin' Show. Bye-bye.